Hello and welcome to News Central Now. I am Adebola Adedugba. The top stories of this hour. Appeal Court voids sack of 25 Proweek Assembly lawmakers. The Federal High Court nullifies Congress that chose Asue Ighodalo as PDP candidate in Edo State. Labour tipped for a historic win as voters goes to poll in the UK. And details shortly. We begin the news with judicial matters, where the Court of Appeal in Lagos has nullified the expulsion of Martin Amawole and 25 others from the Rivers State House of Assembly by the Rivers State High Court. A three-member panel of the Appellate Court held that the lower court lacks jurisdiction to grant the ex parte order. The court held that Section 272, subsection 3 of the Constitution gives the Federal High Court powers to determine whether the seat of the House of Assembly member has become vacant. According to the court, the express mention of the Federal High Court in Section 272, subsection 3 of the Constitution, automatically excludes all state high courts from having the jurisdiction. And to unpack this, I'm joined by a public commentator, Onengi Taylor Harry. Good afternoon. Glad to have you join me. Okay, seems we lost connection with our guest. Are you there? If you can hear me, I'll commence with my question and see if you can reply. What do you make of the decision of the court regarding this nullification of Proweek members in the State House of Assembly in Rivers State? Okay, seems we lost connection with our guest. We'll try to connect with him in the cast of a news bulletin. Moving on to another news item. The Federal High Court on Thursday morning nullified the ad hoc delegates Congress that produced the delegates that chose Asue Ighodalo as the candidate of the PDP. In a significant ruling today, the Federal High Court in Abuja, presided over by Justice Eko, declared that PDP nomination processes were non-compliant with its own constitution. As a result, the court has set aside all processes leading to the Edo PDP governorship primaries held on February 22nd, 2024. The court's decision means that the PDP has no candidate for the upcoming gubernatorial election on September 21st in Edo State. Consequently, Asue Ighodalo and the PDP will not be on the ballot for this critical election. Meanwhile, the PDP has responded by stating the candidature of Dr. Asue Ighodalo as the flag bearer of the party for the 2024 elections remains intact, and the judgment of the Federal High Court in Abuja did not in any way affect the candidature of Dr. Asue Ighodalo. Okay, since we have our guests now reconnecting with us, Onegi Taylor Harry, regarding the court avoiding the sack of 25 Proweek Assembly lawmakers. If you can hear me, what do you make of this court's ruling? Do you see this heating up the polity in Rivers State?
Good afternoon, madam.
Yeah, good afternoon.
To join you guys on your station today.
Yes.
Regarding the Rivers State issue on the defected lawmakers and their
Mr. Taylor Harry, are you there? Okay, seems we lost connection with him again. We'll try to bring you that conversation, hopefully in the course of the news bulletin. Justice Emeka Nweti of the Federal High Court in Abuja has ordered the closure of two companies linked to James Nolan, a British national, facing trial over his involvement in the Process and Industrial Development Limited fraud. In two separate judgments, Justice Donatus Okorowo held that the two companies were found guilty of money laundering offenses. He consequently ordered that the companies be wound up and their assets be forfeited to the federal government. The Economic and Financial Crimes Commission is prosecuting Trinity Biotech Nigeria Limited and Nolan. The commission is also prosecuting Results Express Concept Nigeria Limited and Corrado Fantoli as the first and second defendants. The senators from the southeast have pleaded with President Bola Tinubu to order the release of the detained leader of the indigenous people of Biafra, Nnamdi Kano. Led by Senator Enyinama Abaribe, the lawmakers claimed that unless Kano is released, the social and economic activities in the southeastern region will continue to be stagnant. The senators held a closed-door meeting with the Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice Lateef Fagbemi, where their letter to the Nigerian leaders on the release of Kano was delivered for onward passage to the presidency. Addressing journalists after the meeting, Abaribe, who spoke on behalf of his colleagues, lamented that the economy and social life in the region has suffered enough due to the continued incarceration of the Biafra Nation agitator.
With the Minister of Justice and Attorney General, because we know that at the end of the day, everything that happens in the political, in the legal scheme will eventually come to his office. And we came to appeal to him to help us to let Mr. President know that all leaders of the Southeast feel that the release of Mazen Nnamdi Kano will help in dousing all the tensions and everything that is going on in the Southeast. And we are very, very certain that his duty as the Attorney General also gives him the powers of nolle prosequi, the powers of making sure that litigations don't continue and the sufferings of the people of the Southeast continue. The AGF received us very warmly and also told us that, of course, this is a request for which he has to go and study it, digest it, and take to the president, because he won't take the ultimate decision. I think it's a decision of the government of the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
And to unpack this, I am joined by the Country Director, Nigeria Diaspora Forum, Chike Amadichi. Good afternoon. Glad to have you join me.
Thank you for having me.
All right. Let me start by asking what your thoughts are on the 43 members of the House of Reps asking the president to release Nnamdi Kano.
I think this is the right step in the right direction at the moment. And you and I know that the current insecurity in the Southeast, some people are taking advantage of the detention of Nnamdi Kano, to perpetrate the whole manner of insecurity in the Southeast. So I think the move, to seek for Mr. President to release Mazen Nnamdi Kano is the right step in the right direction, because truth be told, the Southeast is a peaceful region, but unfortunately, the hoodlums or the hoodlums, yes, are taking advantage of this guy in the prison. So I think the plea by the senators, because I know the Southeast governors also met a few days ago, to also make such plea from the Mr. President. And I remember a few weeks ago, the rep from the Southeast caucus also made same plea. They wrote to the Mr. President. I think this is the right decision so far, and I pray that Mr. President will consider this request.
Now, following your, train of thought, if you recall, like you rightly referenced, last month in June, we had 50 lawmakers writing to the president regarding the release of Nnamdi Kano. And also last month, we had the Association of Niger Delta Communities, penning a letter to the president, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, calling for the release of Nnamdi Kano. And now we have 43 lawmakers asking for same. Do you think if these calls are not, adhered to, may incite particularly people in the eastern part of Nigeria? Do you see that inciting any kind of violence?
Not really. For me, I think the president must have all-inclusive government. By so doing, listen to these leaders from this particular region, because like you said, the governors has made this plea, the House of Rep has made this plea, the senators just did that yesterday. So I think the Mr. President should please listen to all the stakeholders from Southeast, because the Southeast has been crying for marginalization. And I believe that part of what brought about what Nnamdi Kanu has been agitating for, I mean, the IPOB agitation has always been the marginalization in the Southeast. So I think that if Mr. President can see from this angle and release Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, perhaps that will give some sense of belonging that indeed Mr. President wants to have all-inclusive government in Nigeria.
Well, what would you say to critics who say, why are we mounting pressure on the president? After all, he's not the one who kept him in custody in the first place. What's your response to that?
Remember that there is this saying that government is continuing, and Mr. President inherited this case, and Nnamdi Kanu is in the custody by the order of the federal government of Nigeria under the President Buhari. So now a new president has taken over. He has inherited all of these issues, all of these cases in court. I think it falls under his desk now. Like the senator said, Senator Baribe said that they have made plea to the Attorney General of the Federation, who said that he will write to the president. So in the sequence, he has to go to the president. So it's the office of, regardless of who is sitting there, is the president that will look into the case and say, okay, I think for us to find some sort of a lasting peace in the Southeast, because to be honest with you, Southeast is a peaceful region. We don't really have any issue of insecurity. Perhaps some hoodlums are taking advantage of Nnamdi Kanu in prison to, commit all manner of crime. Hence, I'm saying that let's take this direction, release him, and see how peace returns in the Southeast.
All right, thank you so much for your insight on this. Country Director, Nigeria Diaspora Forum, Honorable Chike Amadichi. Many thanks once again.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Thank you. Appreciate it.
A federal high court sitting in Kano, presided over by Justice Simon Amobeda, has given 48 hours deadline to two Kano judges, Justice Farouk Lawan Adamu and Justice Zuwaira Yusuf, appointed by Kano State Governor Abba Yusuf, to resign their appointment. Now, Justice Simon Amobeda gave the order while delivering his judgment in the case instituted by former Governor Abdullahi Ganduje, seeking the court to stop Governor Yusuf from probing his administration. Justice Amobeda said failure by the judges to comply with the 48-hour deadline, the National Judicial Council shall stop forthwith the payment of any remuneration, allowances and benefits meant for judicial officers from the Consolidated Revenue Fund of the Federation to the judges. You're live with News Central TV. Let's take a short break. Stay with us. Thank you for staying tuned. Earlier, we brought you news of the Court of Appeal in Abuja nullifying the expulsion of Martin Amawule and 25 others from the Rivers State House of Assembly. And now we have our guest joining us live on the news, Onangiye Taylor Harry, a public commentator. Good afternoon. Glad to have you join me.
Good afternoon. Nice to...
Okay, let me start off by asking what you make of this court's ruling nullifying the expulsion of Martin Amawule and, of course, 24 others from the State of Assembly in Rivers State.
Thank you very much. The court, in its wisdom, they've made these pronouncements. As we all know, the Constitution is very clear on the defection issues. And when a particular members of the House or any is in a group of persons who are under a particular political platform, for any reason that is not in line with the Constitution, defect to another party, their seats are declared vacant. And so when the Okule got to court to make it clear to the High Court that these persons have vacated have defected to another party from the party that elected them into office, and so their seats are declared vacant. The appeal court, in its wisdom, has made a pronouncement saying that the State High Court does not have jurisdiction to declare such matter and to pronounce a statement on it. That is the Federal High Court that has this in power to say that these people can no longer be House of Assembly members of the Rivers State House of Assembly. I think that's the pronouncement of the federal the appellate court. And so Rivers people are very calm with these pronouncements. There are rooms for appeal. The lawmakers, they know what to do. They are to proceed to the Federal High Court to make their appeal clear on this matter.
Okay, if I may come in there, then what does this mean for Governor Siminalayi Fubara and, of course, his loyalists? What would this mean for them?
The governor is a very peaceful person. You can see in his position is a peaceful, loving governor. Whatever pronouncement that is made by the appellate courts, he will abide by it. He has his team of lawyers. The Attorney General of the state is also there to advise him on what to do. So I think he will take the judgment of the appellate court in good faith and look forward to the next step, on what to do.
Would you say that, Governor Fubara himself is acting contrary to what he signed? If you recall the 8-point agreements they signed with President Bola Ahmed Tinubu last year, himself and former governor of Rivers State, Nyesom Wike, would you say Fubara himself is acting against what he signed in that agreement? Okay, seems we lost connection with our guest. Can you hear me, Mr. Taylor Harry?
I can hear you loud and clear.
Yes, I was talking in the light of the issues, stalking Rivers State in the last couple of months. I was, speaking from that point of view. Critics say the problem the governor is having, is as a result of him not following a certain agreement he had signed. If you recall, the president tried to intervene by ensuring both parties, former governor of Rivers State, Nyesom Wike, and of course, the present governor, Fubara, signed a certain 8-point agreement. And people are saying part of that deal or agreement is also the extension of the lawmakers in the State House, in Rivers State, extending their stay. What's your reaction or impression of that?
Well, we're all very much aware of the agreement that was reached at the end of that meeting with Mr. President and the governor and some other stakeholders of the state. And the governor came back and implemented these agreements. And I think the only one that was this thing left was to go back and present the budget, which has already been done before this time. So our money has already been expended on that budget that was presented. So you cannot expect a government that has started spending money on a particular budget that was presented before it. So go back and represent the budget. You know that most of those, as he came back, he called those commissioners and they were screened and assigned to their different portfolios. So with all those things he did, shows that he listened to Mr. President and carried out all of those implementation of this. He implemented all of those 8 points of our agenda by the president. Only few months later, some of those I don't know if I'll call them wiki commissioners, they came back and started resigning in their numbers. And you can see that all these things happened in the open. What do you expect the government to do in that instance? The governor is a peace-loving governor. You can see the support he's got from his people. You can see that all of the 8 points agreement that was made by the president, he agreed and he implemented all of them. So I don't know what these people actually want from the governor of the state.
Well,
the next minute you'll be hearing from these lawmakers that they want to carry out impeachment notice, they want to carry out impeachment notice all the time.
And that's a fine place to leave it. Thank you so much for your time on the news. Onedgiye Taylor Harry, public commentator. Many thanks indeed for your insight.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Corporate.
Stakeholders in Nigeria have called for a functional and workable parole system in the country to enhance the administration of justice in Nigeria. And this was made known at a 2-day performance appraisal workshop in the legal framework on parole in the country and administration of criminal justice laws in Benin City, the Edo State capital. Our correspondent, Joshua Imarai, tells us more.
The workshop, organized by the Clean Foundation, brought together stakeholders from the Edo State government, civil society organizations, and other government agencies. The executive director of the foundation says that the workshop is aimed at driving advocacy for the parole system in the country and addressing notable gaps in the administration of criminal justice laws.
It's been a very engaging discussion, which has opened more insights into existing situations and more developments or recent developments that government have put in place to see how we can improve on our criminal justice administration process in Edo State.
Attendees at the event called on the government to embrace the parole system, saying this will alleviate overcrowding in the country's correctional facilities.
So we've identified the issues. First and foremost, every participant was made to understand what parole is all about. And then, in a nutshell, the truth is that the innovation is good for parole. It will help in prison decongestion. It's a good initiative. It will certainly work.
So far, the workshop has been very, very fruitful, and it's been very educative. And since there are different stakeholders here, we've been able to rub minds on the way forward in the parole system.
The representative of the Edo State Attorney General says that the government has acquired land for a state-owned correctional center as part of effort towards deepening the administration of justice in the state. In Abuja for News Central, I am Joshua Imarai.
The Senate of the University of Benin has shut down academic activities at the institution following Wednesday's protest. Disclosing this in a statement on Thursday, the institution's public relations officer, Benedicta Ehaneri, said the shutdown does not affect the non-academic staff. The university also ordered students to vacate their hostels immediately. UniBen students took to the street on Wednesday, blocking the busy Benin-Ore highway to protest weeks of power outages on their campus. The students are asking for 24-hour electricity supply in the university, an agitation the management has tagged as unrealistic. And now to security. Nigeria's Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Taoreed Lagbaja, has underscored the importance of civil-military relations as a key factor in peacekeeping, which cannot be overemphasized. General Lagbaja was speaking in Plateau State during the commissioning of projects as part of activities to mark the 2024 Nigerian Army Day celebration hosted by 3 Division Maxwell Kobe cantonments in Jos. Our correspondent, Chizoba Anyonwe, who is on the entourage of the Army Chief, tells us more.
Wednesday's activities took the Chief of the Army Staff to Mangu and Riom local government areas of Plateau State, as well as some other council areas, where he commissioned 5 renovated and fully furnished blocks of classrooms, computer rooms, 50,000-litre solar-powered boreholes, as well as extension of medical outreach to communities as part of activities to mark the 2024 NATSEL.
The Nigerian Army equally funds civil-military cooperation projects to bring succor to communities impacted by conflict. This intervention is part of our people-oriented projects to commemorate the Nigerian Army Day celebration 2024 holding here in Plateau State.
The GOC 8th Division drew the intervention by the Army in Mangu, his hometown, in recognition of his contribution to the Nigerian Army, as acknowledged by the Chief of Army Staff.
Thank you, sir, for putting smiles on the faces of the people of Mangun district of Mangu local government, as our children will henceforth enjoy high-quality primary education, which remains the foundation of other levels of education in the society. I and the entire traditional council, including the good people of Mangun, will remain eternally grateful for this kind gesture.
Governor Caleb Mutfwang, represented at the event, commended the Army for the civil-military relations.
We say thank you on behalf of the people of Plateau State. We will not take this for granted, and we will continue to have a very good symbiotic relationship with the Nigerian Army, because we believe that the role they are playing in the society is a very important role to keep the peace and the progress of the people.
Now,
as happy as these locals behind me are today, and with the joy they are showing, the Chief of the Army Staff is expecting that this happiness of theirs will materialize into greater relationship between them and the security agencies on the plateau to ensure that maximum peace is restored back on the plateau in no longer time. From Riom local government area of Plateau State, Chizoba Anyonwe reporting for News Central.
Coming up, Niger Army says more than 100 terrorists killed. We have details shortly. Join us again. The news continues in West Africa, where Niger's army says it has killed more than 100 terrorists during air and ground operations in response to a deadly attack against soldiers. The toll marked a sharp rise from the initial figure reported by the army in a region plagued for several years by religious and ethnic tensions. Recall the attacks which started in the Boko's area spilled into neighboring Barikan Ladi, where 30 people were found dead, according to local chairman Danjuma Dakil. When I head to East, where the Kenyan police say they have arrested more than 270 people masquerading as protesters who are suspected of going on a criminal rampage during anti-government rallies. Widespread looting and property damage were reported during the youth-led demonstrations in various cities across the country, which some protesters said had been infiltrated by goons. Directorate of Criminal Investigation said security forces across the country singled out suspects found engaging in criminal activities in the guise of protesting and took them to custody on Tuesday. It said a total of 204 suspects were arrested in the capital, Nairobi, and another 68 in various other areas of the country. And to talk about this, I am joined by Elvis Akpobi, who is the Executive Director of Not Too Young to Run initiative. Good afternoon. Glad to have you join me.
Good afternoon. It's Not Too Young to Lead initiative.
All right. I mean, there's been different views, diverse views on the nature of the protests in Kenya, where we have seen those categorized as Gen Z driving the process. Now, some say it's showing, signs of growing interest of the young population to governance, while others see this as a sign of failure of leadership that did not provide adequate engagement for the youth. What's your impression of this?
For me, it's a mixed feeling and mixed opinion, in the sense that communication is very, very important in leadership. Public engagement is also very, very critical in leadership. But oftentimes in Africa, you find that there's a gap between stakeholder engagement and even the citizens across African countries. And what people don't know, they cannot comprehend. What people don't know, they cannot assess. You can't just wake up and make bills without engaging the people that these bills will reflect on, and that's what we are saying in Kenya today. As a policymaker, I believe that when you want to make laws, you want to make these, engage the people that you're doing these bills for, these laws for, and we will not have violence and unrest. That's what I think.
Let's draw parallels here. Let's bring this home to Nigeria. Recall, in 2020, Nigeria witnessed the EndSARS protest, which was described as a youth movement. Do you think this is a pointer to pay more attention, on that segment of the population?
Yeah, I think so. For me, beyond paying attention and tokenism, we must, government at all levels must know that there's a rising mass of young people, and when you don't engage young people, they use their energy for negativity. So I think it's time we're proactive in engaging these young people, providing employment for them, and, creating a ladder of social mobility for them. Mostly because when they are not engaged, they become gullible, and when they are gullible, they become vehicles of violence. So I think government at all levels should, mostly in Nigeria, should look into creating safe places for young people, job opportunity, so to reduce crime. Because at the moment in Nigeria, what we're having, if it is not called, we're sitting on a keg of gunpowder. It's a ticking time bomb if we don't create an environment where young people are inspired, are empowered, to become what they dreamt of.
Now, talking about involving the young people in the affairs and governance of a nation leads to my question of, some years ago when Not Too Young to Run, launched a campaign that agitated for the involvement of youth in Nigerian politics. How successful do you think that was, or that has been?
Yeah, we're getting there gradually. For me, I'll say it's been successful. The advocacy has, over the last few years, vested young commissioners and we have young legislators. But the thing is, the leadership recruitment of these people should try, leaders, those that are veterans, should try and equip young people, mentor them properly to be prepared for leadership. Like, I'll give you an example. As an SSA to the governor of Delta State for youth development, currently, with the support of our youth-friendly governor, we are currently planning a program on intergenerational dialogue where we're trying to balance collaboration with confrontation, where the veterans will sit on the same table with the emerging leaders and, we'll tap from their knowledge to drive an agenda for our state. Mostly because in his administration as a governor at the moment, he has empowered young people. We have young commissioners who have delivered, and we hope that more young persons will come on board, because for me, to pass, there's no force greater than peer-to-peer influence. So when you can see greatness in your own time, and greatness you can connect with. At the moment, young people back in Delta State, they are overwhelmed with the privilege the governor has given to them, because they can connect to their peers who are commissioners and they can share ideas to move the state forward.
And that's a fine place to wrap up on that thought. Thank you so much for your insight on the news. Executive Director, Not Too Young to Lead Initiative, Elvis Akpobi. Many thanks indeed for your insight.
Thank you for having me.
Britain voted Thursday in a general election widely expected to hand the opposition Labour Party a landslide win and end nearly a decade and a half of Conservative rule. The first national ballot since Boris Johnson won the Tories in a decisive victory in 2019 follows Prime Minister Rishi Sunak's surprise call to hold it 6 months earlier than required. His gamble looks set to backfire spectacularly, with polls throughout the 6 weeks campaign and for the last 2 years pointing to a heavy defeat for his right-wing party. Meanwhile, Labour Party leader Keir Starmer has cast his vote in London polling station. Earlier, Prime Minister Rishi Sunak voted in his Yorkshire constituency just half an hour after polls opened. And to talk about this, I'm joined by a political analyst, Thamsankwa Zon. Good afternoon. Glad to have you join me.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
All right, the pleasure is all mine. We understand election is supposed to commence, at 7 a.m. across over 40,000 polling units. How has the election proceedings so far turned out?
So the election is going on in the United Kingdom. I've been to quite a number of polling stations. It appears that surprisingly, there were very large queues in certain parts of the country, especially in the capital, London. Our understanding is that there were a lot of people who wanted to vote before they went to work. So we also then expect that when work is done after hours, from about 5 p.m. to 10 p.m. or probably between 5 p.m. and 8 p.m., it's likely to be busy again. The other thing that we understand is that this is the first time in a general election that identity cards or ID cards are required for you. If you are a voter, you need to show your ID. And that process of having the election officials checking everyone's ID to make sure that they are the person they say they are is also making it take longer for people to vote than ordinarily. But by and large, peaceful as you would expect, but very tricky to predict what's going to happen.
Interesting. I mean, we've seen different talks or heard different talks of people saying the future of Britain depends on these polls. And then it's widely believed that this election will hand power over to the opposition Labour Party. Why is that so?
I think at this time, it is better to wait for 10 o'clock when the exit polls will then be official. But what is likely to happen is, the reason for that is you've got polls, which are one thing, which is just saying, how are you intending to vote? But Britain is one of those countries that is divided into what you call safe seats for some of the political parties. You know, there are some parties that will vote either for the Conservatives or you know, others that are like-minded, that are to the right of British politics. And there are those that will probably vote for those that are at the center and those that are to the left. And what tends to happen is if you believe, say, if you are a Green or a Lib Dem or even a Labour voter, and you are in a constituency where you believe that your vote is not going to make a difference if you vote for your party, there's a lot of what we call tactical voting that is going on. So the fact that people might have said they want to vote for a particular party does not necessarily mean that they are going to vote for that party, because they might want to try and influence the result or to stop somebody else from going on. Something's what is happening in France.
Just to chip in there,
I think,
if I may come in there, apologies for butting in. You said something quite interesting, talking about results. Now, reports indicate 31% surge in food prices, hiking voters to get the Labour Party, you know, to win this election. What else could be, or what else, you know, are the people unhappy about?
So the majority of the people that we have spoken to say they are unhappy with politics in general. They don't believe or trust politicians of any complexion, color, or belief. They think that politicians and the ordinary people are not on the same page. There are a lot of people who say they've been to demonstrations, to protest, they've tried to raise their voices, but every time it appears as if their voice does not make a difference in terms of how the country is governed. So it is disappointment in politics in general, and that is what appears to be hurting the Conservative Party in particular, and especially Prime Minister Rishi Sunak. So if this happens to be the last day that Prime Minister Rishi Sunak is the head of government in Britain, it is not so much about what he has been able to do when in government or what he was not able to do when in government, because he came in when inflation was high, things were different, and he was able to achieve tick box the things that his party wanted him to do. It is so much about people saying they cannot trust politicians in his party anymore, which is why the message for change has resonated. But even then, you hear people saying, well, even if they give their vote, they still are not convinced that the Labour Party or the politicians are likely to play ball insofar as doing what
I'm afraid that's the most we can take. Well, thank you so much for your insight. Well, we have our ears and eyes on ground to see who comes out the winner in this election, you know, happening in the UK. Thank you so much for your insight.
Thank you.
You're watching News Central TV. Let's take a short break. Stay with us. Thank you for staying tuned. Cryptocurrency firms operating in Nigeria have begun implementing a 7.5% value-added tax on all transactions conducted on their platforms. Now, this move follows the federal government's previous action against Binance for alleged tax non-compliance. KuCoin, a cryptocurrency exchange in Nigeria, announced that it would start imposing a 7.5% VAT on transaction fees from July 8, 2024. The VAT will be applied to the transaction fee, not the total transaction amount. KuCoin emphasized that the VAT is a regulatory requirement for users in Nigeria. Egypt's non-oil private sector continued to show signs of improvements in June, driven by ease in price pressures and improved demand prospect. The S&P Global Purchasing Managers Index for Egypt rose to 49.9% in June from 49.6% in May, indicating that the country is nearing a recovery after 43 consecutive months of contraction. Non-oil companies in Egypt experienced an increase in sales volumes for the first time since August 2021. The manufacturing and services sector showed the most promising signs, while construction activity contracted. In line with Governor Abba Yusuf's agenda for powering grassroots sports development through schools, the Lagos State government, through its Lagos State Sports Trust Fund, has distributed much-needed sport equipment to schools across the state. At a press conference on Thursday, 4th of July 2024 at the Secretariat in Alausa, Ikeja, LSSTF distributed sport equipment to 644 public secondary schools, state technical colleges, and 5 tertiary institutions across the state ahead of the inter-school games later this year. Now, some of the equipment include footballs, table tennis and bats, judo mats, running spikes, cricket helmets and bats, boxing gloves, and first aid boxes. According to Olakposi Ogunbiade, Executive Secretary and CEO of LSSTF, Lekan Fatodun, Director General of the Lagos State Sports Commission, and Mobolaji Ogunlende, Lagos State Commissioner for Youth and Social Development, the move is just a start of greater emphasis on sport development by the Lagos State government.
In the speech I delivered on behalf of Mr. Governor, if you remember, I said we have just completed some facilities. We've completed 5 outdoor sporting facilities. We've completed the swimming pool at Roe Park, which is going to be commissioned soon. These are some of the projects the LSTF has recently completed. Yes, there's a lot of expectations, but we need to take them in orders of priority. The equipments are also as important as those facilities, right? Because without the equipment, you cannot train at those facilities. So we've started from this. We have taken it. We are aware that we need to complete. We need legacy infrastructural projects. As you are aware, across Lagos State, some of our stadiums are being constructed. Some are almost done. Some are just being started. But it is a priority of the government to ensure that all of these projects will see a conclusion. And we hope that by the time we finish that, it would, be able to. It will be one of the facilities.
And that's all on the news at this hour. But before we go, let's take a look again at some of the major stories. Appeal courts voice sack of 25 Proweek Assembly lawmakers. The Federal High Court nullifies Congress that chose Asue Godalo as PDP candidate in Edo State. Labour tipped for historic win as voters go to polls in the UK. Send your eyewitness report to the WhatsApp number on the screen and follow us on social media. We are at News Central TV. You can watch us live on DSTV, channel 422, Star Times, channel 274, Avo TV, and YouTube. Many thanks for watching. I am Adebola Adedugba.